In 1989, Grant Morrison wrote what I believe to be one of the scariest Batman stories ever told. Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth is a relatively short graphic novel, but there's a lot to unpack. From the atmosphere of Arkham Asylum to the biblical imagery from Dave McKean, you can go through this book tens of times and not run out of things to think about. When you focus on the events of the comic, there's not much that actually happens. You could write it off as a typical night for Batman in Gotham City. However, what makes this comic horrifying isn't the events of the story, it's the breaking down of Batman as a character. At the beginning of the story, Batman is required to go into Arkham Asylum in order to restore calm, or as far as relative calm goes in Arkham Asylum, and he is required to rescue a hostage from the Joker. However, Batman is reluctant to do so, stating to Commissioner Gordon that he's afraid if he walks through those asylum gates, it'll be just like coming home. And in the remainder of the comic, we learn exactly what the Batman is afraid of. The comic portrays perhaps the least flattering depiction of the Batman ever, if we were to ignore the Snyderverse.
And make no mistake, I will kill you.
The environment of the asylum drives him mad to the extent that he drives a shard through his own hand not long after the Joker sends him on a hide-and-seek quest through Arkham. Later on in the novel, we see him pushing Destiny down a flight of stairs, and perhaps the least Batman-like practice, he gets knocked to the ground by a doctor, can't defend himself, and one of the hostages has to kill the doctor with her bare hands, something she'll have to live with forever. We can see her grief and regret in the following panels, and Batman plays it off like it was nothing, something she shouldn't feel sorry for. He doesn't even try to console her. To top all of this off, in the comic we can see that the doctors at the asylum made progress on Two-Face, who in this comic is depicted as an obvious harmless mental patient, by taking away his famous coin and giving him more options to choose from by giving him dice, packs of cards, and other things to help him make a variety of decisions. But Batman, for not much reason, takes his coin from the doctors and gives it right back to him. The asylum is clearly really messing with Batman's head in this comic, and I've just briefly summarized it, but the art style as well as Grant Morrison's writing really shows you the foundations of the asylum and why it's making Batman go nuts the way he is. And this definitely was the definitive Arkham Asylum story, not to be outdone or touched until a whole 20 years later with the release of Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Asylum, a game written masterfully by Paul Dini from Batman the Animated Series, and it's still a shame he didn't get to conclude his Arkham trilogy by writing Arkham Knight. But that's not what we're here to discuss today. We're here to discuss the environment and the aspects of Rocksteady's Arkham Asylum that made it a true horror game. First off, I want to talk about the overall atmosphere of the asylum. It is a genuinely horrifying place to be. As you progress through the story and through the asylum, just looking around at the outdated architecture, the gargoyles, the clearly not up-to-date standard of pretty much everything in the building, from the start you're basically just left wondering how Arkham is an actually operational modern-day health facility. Which is what it's supposed to be after all. As we see throughout the game, we have doctors, research lying around, schedules that show patient appointments. Arkham Asylum is a mental health facility, but the whole game does keep you wondering if they have actually successfully rehabilitated anyone whatsoever. Another thing that absolutely terrified me while playing the game were the patient cells. Looking at the beds with straps to restrain the patients, the writing on the walls, judging by the amount of these cells we see in the game, this was the typical cell an Arkham inmate would get. They weren't even reserved for the super criminal inmates. Speaking of which, there's a few of those cells we can notice in the game. The main one being Killer Croc's cell, which just has a lot of skulls and bones surrounding it. Which, as I think about it, speaks volumes about the corruption of the asylum doctors. And it's pretty clear that they just brought him murderers for lunch. I mean, there's no other way Croc just had human bones all around his cell and nobody batted an eye. Another cell we notice is Two-Face's cell, which is split in half just like the man himself, with one half of the cell being intact, while the other half is pretty much destroyed with all kinds of writing over the walls, with both sides being held together by a Vote Dent poster. We can also see Maxi Zeus's cell, which is just straight up run down and torn apart. Like, come on, there's no way you're telling me that Arkham Asylum is a reputable mental health institution whatsoever. Everything is crumbling, and it's clear that anybody who comes in here leaves in a much worse state than when they arrived. This is further proven, of course, by former Arkham psychologist Harleen Quinzel, and we all know what happened to her. Another example is in the game in the form of Dr. Penelope Young, who has been helping the Joker create the Titan formula the game focuses on. Even the founder of the asylum itself, Amadeus Arkham, went clinically insane and died within the asylum walls after murdering who knows how many inmates because he deemed them unfit to be nursed back to normalcy. Speaking of Amadeus, you can also find his cell in the game, with the same circularly written scriptures from the Arkham Asylum comic, and the beetle on the doorway, which has become sort of a symbol of the Arkham family. Continuing with the spooky aesthetics of the game, there is a full graveyard of inmates, many of whom off themselves by jumping from Dead Man's Point, right above the Batcave. And in the graveyard, you can find Amadeus Arkham's grave. Oh joy. Shying away from the asylum a little bit, throughout the game there's a clear sense of isolation. You are on Arkham Island, an island full of people who want to kill you, and you're miles away from mainland Gotham City. Your closest ally, Commissioner Gordon, has been taken hostage by the Joker, and in many ways you are completely isolated. This sense of isolation, coupled with the theme and environment of the game, makes it absolutely terrifying at times. All of the aspects of the game, combined with the context of the comic, makes the game just the perfect horror Batman story. There is so much depth to every element in the game. The asylum itself feels alive at times, with the numerous stories hidden away in every part of it. All the Easter eggs and references, and the story of the asylum that builds up as you play, especially as you find the Spirit of Arkham collectibles that detail the past of the asylum and give you further context. Continuing on, I want to talk a bit about the enemies in this game, and the people you are trapped on an island with. First off, we have the main antagonist of this game, the Joker, a nihilistic clown who wants to inflict you with nightmare upon nightmare. Killer Croc, a literal man-eating crocodile who hunts you down because he wants to eat you. Bane, a drug-infused assassin who could beat the Hulk to a pulp. He also wants to kill you, by the way, if that trend wasn't clear enough already. Poison Ivy, who made all of this possible by assisting in the creation of Titan. She has a series of murderous plans and she fully intends to use them in order to, you guessed it, kill you. But perhaps the one who contributes the most to the horror element in this game, Scarecrow, who uses fear toxin in order to lull you into drug-infused hallucinations, in which you see Jim Gordon die and your dead parents talking to you.
Mom?
Help us, Bruce! Don't let us die!
Yeah, this game is pretty messed up. Moving away from the main villains of the game, Joker's henchmen, the former Blackgate prisoners, have some crazy character designs, which, albeit cool, would send the average Metropolis schoolchild into a coma. And now we talk about the lunatics. They terrify me, genuinely, and when they were introduced into the game, I permanently had detective vision on because I didn't want them to jump scare me. But thinking beyond that, the lunatics serve as a testament to the quality of Arkham Asylum. They were sent here to be cared for, and instead they were experimented on and turned into these always terrified creatures with their eyes permanently latched open. It's just plain sad. In fact, that's really what Arkham Asylum and the point of this video boils down to. The whole thing is just plain sad. The state of the asylum, the history of the asylum, what happened to the patients of the asylum, it's a practice in melancholy. The asylum is alive, but whatever made it a mental health institution is long dead. Or maybe it was never one in the first place, and there's enough evidence to suggest that in a serious house on serious earth. If I were to talk about the story of the game, it plays on the horror aspects of the environment design beautifully. You meet all of these enemies as the horrors of the asylum unfold in front of Batman. Bane has been experimented on by the Joker and Penelope Young using the Titan formula.
They're young, the Bruja. She drained the venom from my blood. Must stop her.
Sorry, has-been. The good doctor won't be a problem much longer. How do you like my puppet? What say we cut him down?
The Scarecrow keeps injecting fear toxin into you in order for things to seem even worse than they actually are. Most of the guards and staff of the asylum have all been murdered by the inmates, and as you collect patient interviews and tapes, you get to learn about the background story of some of the characters at the asylum. Dr. Pamela Isley, who becomes Poison Ivy, and most interestingly for me, Harley Quinn's original form from the Joker interviews, where she's simply a psychologist interviewing a psychopathic clown. Even the premise of the story, as I mentioned before, being trapped on an island where everyone wants to kill you, and if you fail to defeat them, there's dire consequences for pretty much an entire city. And if you want to defeat them, you need to take a ride through hell. But the storyline of the game itself isn't even what makes it so scary. In fact, for me, it's one of the least memorable parts of the game. There's just so much else to focus on. In summary, I believe Batman Arkham Asylum is the perfect Batman horror story because of how much work was put into making it feel that way. The asylum is treated like a living thing. You explore it, and it has so much history behind every single thing. There's just so much story, and you explore all of it through Easter eggs, through patient interviews, and of course through completing the game. It's not edgy horror, it doesn't just have shock value. The fear and the horror displayed in Arkham Asylum has layers to the madness. Everything has context, reasoning. It's such a well planned and well thought out storyline. And every time you play the game, there's something new you'll find, something new that'll keep you awake at night if you pay enough attention. And that's both beautiful and horrific at the same time. Batman Arkham Asylum's position as the perfect Batman horror story isn't even strictly because of the story itself. It's in fact mostly because of the environment and the world building, and the context of the comic which the game builds on in a brilliant way, and it definitely manages to separate itself from. Thank you for watching. Drop a comment on what you think I should do next, like the video and subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell if you like this video, and if you want to see future uploads, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.